Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now getting closer to the end of April of 2023, and with The Mandalorian Season 3's finale now available out on Disney+, a lot of Star Wars fans have really been looking forward to the Ahsoka Tano series, set to debut by this August that John and Dave are already setting up the marketing for that as we speak. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that there's a lot of things going on with Kathleen Kennedy, John and Dave, Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, and the executives, and their shakeup, there's a lot of things happening with the Star Wars franchise as we know it, and exactly where it's all heading. Now, we do know that Bob Iger's big plan is to bring Star Wars mainly back to the theaters again. That's basically what his goal in mind is to focus on theaters strictly, where the shows will be more or less of a side thing to focus on eventually. And that's really interesting because we know that the Mandoverse projects, as of right now, are going to be a setup to Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie that's going to be the gateway of a new trilogy that's going to allow us to see the Mandoverse on the big screen, essentially, with a higher budget. But moving on, we know that everything related to The Mandalorian Season 3 has been very controversial. We know a lot of fans out there had mixed reactions over this season. A lot of episodes, fans would like to go as far to call them filler, except for 2 out of 8 episodes. I felt like the finale was the best episode, and that's not just because it was the finale. It was literally, in my opinion, the best episode. Cinematically, writing-wise, directing-wise, just everything. Felt more right in bed with the, of course, Mandalorian story. Now, with that being said, with Pedro Pascal getting ready to begin working on The Mandalorian Season 4, which is set to be entirely different than past episodes and essentially resetting The Mandalorian show, recently after the Season 3 finale, Pascal took part in an interview where he actually unveiled some pretty big things to fans by stating the following. So, yeah, we had all these crazy plans for how we were going to end things with Grogu and Din, who is now Din Grogu. Originally, John and Dave were going to have both myself and Katie as Bo-Katan and, of course, fighting Moff Gideon together in a 2-on-1 battle, where we were going to be passing the dark saber back and forth to each other. It was this sort of tag team style fight for us against Gideon to gain the upper hand. Think something like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon against Darth Maul. We only got to partially film that before Kathy instructed us that it would probably be best to leave Gideon to face Bo-Katan strictly, and for me to face the Praetorians to come to Grogu's aid. We even had this moment where we were going to have Din getting beat down by Gideon, where I was going to be face flat on the floor, where Gideon was going to lift me up and remove my helmet and holding the dark saber up to my neck after he obtained it from Bo-Katan. Kathy felt that this was a little bit too aggressive for audiences, and also wanted to keep Din's helmet on for the entire season. Let me just stop right here for 1 second. That would have been an amazing sequence, single-handedly right there. I think it would have been a great way to grow Din Djarin's character in a sense where he's working with Bo-Katan in a team effort against Gideon. You know, I think that was one thing that a lot of fans also had complaints about, was how there was this obvious shift to focusing on Bo-Katan more than Din Djarin. Alright, a lot of fans would go as far to say that this show was somewhat of a bait and switch, where it really swapped the roles of who is like the main focus. Even after Bo-Katan obtained the dark saber, all the posters from Mando Season 3 afterward, I don't know if you guys noticed, all the posters, by the way, had Din Djarin in the background and Bo-Katan big and bloated in the very front of the poster. Basically, quite literally, showcasing her as the main character now. So, that's one complaint that a lot of fans had, and here, you can see that it seems from what Pedro is saying is that the source of that, or of course the foundation of why that happened, was all due in part to Kathleen Kennedy, especially within the finale. Which, by the way, she didn't want that team effort against Gideon. She wanted Din to have, a little one-on-one battle with him and then switch to having Bo-Katan doing a one-on-one battle with Gideon. And that would be taking place while Din is coming to Grogu's aid against the Praetorian guards. Now look, I mean, it was fine in a sense, but you can see that it's pretty obvious that basically Kathleen Kennedy wanted to kind of water down Din Djarin in the entirety of Season 3 quite slowly. You know, you saw it kind of happening, you know, episode by episode, where Din's making bad calls or some bad decisions, and Bo-Katan's even calling him out on that in one of the episodes, stuff around those lines. So anyways, moving on to the next thing. He goes on to elaborate, we, of course, only shot that got to partially shoot that also before scrapping it. John and Dave were pretty underwhelmed about that decision, but it was fun while we were doing it all together. I just wish Din had all his glory moment against Gideon. So I guess I missed my chance unless he comes back, haha. But yeah, this wasn't John and Dave's call, it came from Kathy, who felt Grogu needed a moment to get help and, of course, to get aided by Din, and the answer was the Praetorians. I must admit, I did not like the decision of destroying the dark saber. It was heartbreaking. I'm gonna miss holding that thing, and especially Katie. Unless John and Dave have plans to bring it back, I have no idea. But it was a tough pill to swallow seeing Gideon squash that like a bug. John and Dave's answer to that was his newfound armor allowed him to crush the dark saber at ease. So, there you have it. I know a lot of fans out there have been wondering, how did he crush the dark saber? Well, due in part had a lot to do with, you know, Gideon's newfound armor, like Pedro says. Again, we know that he has Beskar armor in the final fight against Din Djarin and, of course, Bo-Katan. It's a very interesting fight. But yeah, there you have it. Again, like, Pedro really kind of putting things out there that there was supposed to be this 2-on-1 fight against Gideon, and completely just Kathleen Kennedy came into the equation and ripped that apart. The same exact thing happened, by the way, and this is not a coincidence, with Episode 9. There was supposed to be a team effort where Ben and Rey would take down Palpatine once and for all. Instead, what happened was, all we got was Ben and Rey just kind of confronting Palpatine, raising their sabers, before getting thrown backward, quite literally, and really kind of getting the life sucked out of them, where Ben Solo doesn't really get to fight Palpatine at all. So that was another big choice by Kathleen Kennedy. You can almost see that it's like a direct parallel, almost, in a sense. But anyways, guys, you know, I would love to hear what you have to say about Pedro's statements here, about what he actually felt about the Darksaber, about Kathleen Kennedy butting in and changing things up quite drastically for the ending of Mando Season 3. And we talked about this yesterday, about how Jon Favreau talked about how there were so many different plans for Thrawn to also be, you know, a big center or a big focus for one of the post-credit scenes or mid-credit scenes, whatever have you, to set things up for Star Wars Ahsoka. That too was cut out of the script and never even got filmed. It didn't even go as far to get filmed, really. So anyways, I really find this to be very interesting, the fact that they cut out this tag team effort like Pedro says. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below what you guys have to say about all of this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.